Hi, this is a brief video response to State of Daniel's comments about evolution and eugenics and philosophy, which were so staggeringly stupid I thought they warranted comment. It's not an argument that is common, but I've certainly seen it before and it needs absolutely knocking on the head, so here goes.
The real danger isn't that evolution is being taught in schools. The danger, in my opinion, is that Darwinism and evolutionism are being conflated with philosophy.
Well, actually, the conflation here is conflating Darwinism and philosophy. Darwinism, to the extent it's a useful phrase at all, is simply the description of somebody who believes, accepts, and follows the principles that Darwin discovered and described. It's simply a label for somebody who understands a particular set of scientific facts, but I appreciate that you have to make this conflation at the outset disingenuously in order to set up the lousy arguments that you're going to move on to.
Darwinism creates two insipid moralities. The first one allows you to be cruel to animals, or perhaps even other human beings, under the doctrine of survival of the fittest.
So here we go with those lousy arguments. Firstly, Darwinism does not create any moralities at all. It doesn't describe morality, it doesn't deal with morality, it deals with observations of the natural world which help us understand how things work. Darwin, or belief in Darwin's theories, does not lead to or create the philosophy of survival of the fittest. The manner in which he used that phrase was purely a description of observations of the natural world which help us to understand how things actually work in real life. You have conflated that with a completely different issue, which is the application of the same phrase in a completely different manner, in a completely different context, by people like Hitler. They applied the phrase survival of the fittest to justify eugenics, to justify racism and all the other appalling things that they wished to do. The two things are not remotely the same. One is an observation of fact, the other is a philosophy, and the only one doing the conflating here is you, in order to back up the absurd suggestion that accepting, recognizing the facts set out and understood and explained to us by Darwin and all the many scientists that have followed him is somehow to be equated or compared with evil moral philosophies and evil actions by dictators and despots.
On the other end of the spectrum, though, Darwinism elevates the status of animals to that of humans.
No, it doesn't. That's complete crap.
The philosophy of Darwinism and evolution leads to eugenics. On the positive side, we can breed a stronger race. We can breed people for their intended professions, breed people to create better athletes, stronger minds. On the flip side of that, though, it clearly devalues human life. When we look at Nazi Germany, we see people breeding the human race to make it stronger by exterminating entire races and groups of people. Only under evolutionary philosophy and eugenics was it permissible by Nazi Germany to force thousands and millions of people into death camps and exterminate them.
Bloody hell, where do you start? Firstly, who said it was permissible by Nazi Germany to do those things? Nobody said that. It was the act of an evil, corrupt dictator who had a grip on a nation. It had nothing to do with it being permitted. More to the point, the idea that Darwinism or an acceptance, recognition of a scientific fact somehow leads to that philosophy of treating people in that way is absolutely fallacious. It makes no sense whatsoever. Once again, you are conflating the two things. One is an observation of the real world and how it works. The other is a philosophy applied by people like Hitler in Nazi Germany to act on and carry out their racist, evil, vicious agendas. They are not the same thing. I find it frankly amazing that a seemingly intelligent young man such as yourself is unable to understand and spot the difference between two entirely different applications of a piece of phraseology. And I have to say that leads me to the view that the argument you're putting forward here is not one that you honestly hold. It's dishonest, it's disingenuous. It is being set up to take people in full knowledge that these two things are not the same. The alternative is you are blindly, willfully and stupidly ignorant. I'm not sure which is worse, but if you're supposed to be a Christian, the former is something that should have you hanging your head in shame.
We always use Nazis as an example, and a lot of people think that's extreme.
Not extreme, just irrelevant.
When I talk about the threat of evolutionary philosophy and eugenics, it's not just Nazi Germany, but it actually hits closer to home. We even see it today in Obama's spending budget. There was a special appropriation in Obama's 2012 budget, and I'm going to link to that down below so you can read it for yourself, but it states that of the funds appropriated under Title III of this act, not less than $575 million should be made available for family planning, reproductive health, including areas where population growth threatens biodiversity or endangered species.
Are you really serious? Family planning is not eugenics. It's about sticking a condom on the end of your knob, or taking a pill, or doing one of the other things that stop unwanted child pregnancies, teen pregnancies, pregnancies to people who are not in a position to look after or pay for their children, and all the social pressures and ills that that brings with it.
So eugenics isn't just something of the past that we study in history books, it's well and alive today. And to me, that's the true danger of evolution. It's not the fact that it's being taught in schools or that it threatens creationism, but it's the fact that Darwinism and evolution are being conflated with philosophy. It devalues human life, and we're seeing variations of this philosophy being used in the abortion and stem cell research debates.
Alright, here's my theory. I think that the only people trying to do the conflating of these two things are people like you, Daniel, and the reason you're doing it is to make a collateral attack on the ideas of evolution, which you don't like and don't want to have to agree with because they conflict with your religious views. You cannot honestly, ingenuously, or logically conflate these two things. The people who you are criticizing, intelligent, sensible scientists, people who understand what you call Darwinism, are not people who are likely to be guilty of conflating these two things because they understand the very simple and straightforward and easy difference between survival of the fittest and natural selection as a description of the natural world and as a scientific understanding of that natural world. And its use by dark forces, if you like, for nefarious ends. What is absolutely crucial to understand here is that the reason eugenics works is because evolution is true. If evolution and the processes described and understood by Darwin and those that have followed him were not true, then eugenics would not work. You wouldn't be able to blot out genes and select and create and breed a race, were it not for the fact that those mechanisms work and are real. So, even if your arguments were genuine, honest, and had some logical substance, they would not for one moment speak to the truth of the principles described by Darwin and evolution. They wouldn't for one moment have any bearing on whether natural selection is the process by which creatures on this planet, including us, have evolved. It has absolutely no bearing on these issues. What seems to be happening here is that you are arguing that because the clearly scientifically proven processes of natural selection and evolution lead humans to an understanding that enables them to implement ideas such as eugenics, the knowledge and the understanding should be somehow forbidden, banished, hidden, and that we are better to proceed in ignorance of those things. Surely the correct approach is to ban people dealing in eugenics, not to ban the knowledge that underpins how eugenics could work or be applied by people with that sort of evil mindset. And that is why I'm baffled generally by your video. I'm struggling to understand whether, as I've said before, it's genuine ignorance, or some really slimy, deceitful attempt to create an argument and lead people down a path of ignorance, because ignorance is something that helps religions such as the one you support to flourish. Either way, go away, and as we say in this country, go away and think about what you've done.